especially companies that hire 50 people or 100 people at a time for something, you have to have some kind of software to filter out.
As a business leader, when somebody on your team leaves, especially if it's somebody that's had long tenure, it can be very painful. It's like a breakup. Are they repurposing the job? Are they looking for somebody different or somebody with a little bit different skill set?
Well, hello, Morgan. How are you?
Hi, good. Good morning, Marino. I'm doing excellent. How are you today?
Oh, I'm really good. It's so good to see you. I think the last time we were talking, there was thunder and lightning and the power kept trying to go out. So it's a sunny day. I think we're safe to record our interview today. It's lovely to have you on the Business Leader podcast.
Yeah, likewise. Yes, I do remember it. I'm glad that everybody, you're safe from the lightning bolts there.
The building didn't burn down from lightning.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Well, I love talking to business leaders, particularly someone at kind of the Renaissance entrepreneur level where you are. You have synthesized what you do well into 2 full-time businesses. And it's so fascinating to learn how you do that and how the different clients that you work with benefit from both of your teams. So you run 2 businesses. One is Morgan Human Capital, and that's a recruiting team. And you work to recruit all kinds of people at different levels. We'll talk about your 20 years of experience in that. And then we'll also talk about Gofer, a last mile delivery service that was born within a company that you were working with at the time. And your unique skill set, your vision about how to solve that problem created a company that's now in 13 cities. So, most people will be proud of one of those. You're managing 2 of them. So it's interesting to hear your story today. You're going to inspire us to do more. You don't get up at 4:30 in the morning or anything, do you? Do we have to do that? No, okay, good.
I do not. I'm not one of those people, no.
Sometimes you're like, what do I have to do to mimic this? Get up at 4:30, drink raw eggs. What do I have to do? I don't want to do that. So I'm glad that you're doing that while being a happy family man with 3 kids and proudly 1 son in the Space Force out in San Diego. So I'll thank you for his service since I haven't met him. But
Thank you.
yeah, on the edge of all the new horizons that we're facing. So let's start with Morgan Human Capital, since that's 20 years of experience for you. And as we were talking before, a lot of companies are, flattening their operations using AI and large language learning models and systems. There are bots that do Zoom interviews. There's the popular applicant tracking systems. And sometimes, especially companies that hire 50 people or 100 people at a time for something, you have to have some kind of software to filter out. You couldn't hire enough humans to get all of that done, right? So there's a reason applicant tracking system software is in existence because human resource teams have to have the help for the heavy lifting. But people don't turn to you for talk to 20 receptionists and give me the top 3. People turn to you because they really need something. And as we'll discuss in a minute with Gofer, your last mile delivery company, you have a way of identifying where those problems are and producing a custom solve. So if someone's looking for a right hand, personal assistant who can travel, or, a receptionist who can answer phones and be polite, someone that's in a very high need, a CFO. At any level, you can talk with a business owner or leaders and say, let's look at the pain points and show me what that solution looks like for you, and my recruiting team will find it. So when someone reaches out to Morgan Human Capital, what is the experience like? You want to walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, let me just say thanks for having me first. Again, very excited to be here this morning with you and talking. So I think, what I've tried to do specifically to Morgan Human Capital is just give a great all-around experience. Number one, we really dive in to understand the situation. As a business leader, when somebody on your team leaves, especially if it's somebody that's had long tenure, it can be very painful. It's like a breakup. One of my clients called me the other day. It's a totally different niche industry. He owns a restaurant, but his head chef left. It was 2 weeks notice. And he says, he goes, I'm devastated. And it's an amicable split. He just wants to do something different with his career, the chef. But he says, he's been with me for 8 years. I feel like we're getting divorced. And he goes, it's hurting. So we feel those pains. We understand it because we've been there. I've seen firsthand by leading talent acquisition in large companies, how a lot of these people, they have great careers, and all of a sudden one day they just want to try something different, whatever that different is. And so we really want to understand the pain and what's going on, the needs, the new skill set. Are they repurposing the job? Are they looking for somebody different or somebody with a little bit different skill set? We really want to understand the timeline that they need things in because, as you know, business is like a boat in the water. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going and people are hanging on for dear life. And so that person leaves and that job sits empty. And it's going to cost money. It's going to cost time. Slack's got to be picked up. Usually it's by the boss, enough on their plate. And so, again, we just really try to understand all the pain points, understand the profile that they desire, and really go out there and create a match. And I think that's what we see as another differentiator of Morgan Human Capital is it sounds funny saying this, but we look at recruiting as dating.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a company that's doing this dance. That's a candidate that's doing this other dance. We have to make sure they're going to be a good fit for each other through many different ways. And we can get all that information through asking many different questions and, spending time together with the client and with the candidate or candidates. And then we create that match and we recommend the best potential match to the client by a whole slew of understanding their culture, their needs, their business, their pain points. And we really take the time to understand those, where a lot of other companies, a lot of other recruiters are either fly by night, they're just quick and transactional. We are more relationship driven. We also go deep, we deep dive into really understand the situation and what's going on. So that way we can create those perfect matches.
Well, and that's something you can't get with software, right? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you can't get that with software. Another good point that you brought up, especially with the AI, is look, I'm not an AI denier. I know it's here. It's going to get bigger. I think that I talk to people every single day that are asking me, or they're even telling me that they're trying to AI proof themselves. I just had one of my best friends. She does a lot of contract work. Her job is slowly going away because now AI is writing these contracts, it's reviewing these contracts. And it doesn't always make it mean it's right because it's not a perfect system and people still go back and review it. But now she's going to go to school and she wants to become a nurse. She's going to go back to school and become a nurse, and she's over 50. So, we know AI is here, but at the same time, I think we have to think about, especially in the human resources arena, is we always have to be cognizant of our customer and what our customer wants. And our customer a lot of times is people. And a lot of who our customer is candidates when they apply for jobs. That's our customer. And I think the HR space, the HR tech space does a really, really bad job at listening to what the customer wants, meaning the candidates. We keep building all these fancy technologies and getting further away from what the candidate wants. And all the candidate really wants is some good old-fashioned interaction and talk to sometimes. And I know it's hard to impossible to talk to everyone, but there might be ways that we can do that and do it better and just simplify things that we're doing versus going out and getting another AI bot to create more of a separation in the job search field.
Well, and I think if you're hiring a barista, applicant tracking systems, AI systems can give you your first pass, right? They can do the initial screening and save you some time. But, you've named your company Morgan Human Capital because you believe in the value of human capital, what humans bring to the table. And we're in a time of, great change and transition. I think it's all going to turn out well in the end. I think about the buggy makers who did not appreciate cars, and the people that, ran all that copper cable for AT&T, and now they're pulling it up all over the country because the copper is so valuable and everybody's wireless, so time marches on. And I think when you have someone who absolutely has to have the right person, doesn't matter what level of the company, they understand that fit is so important. They'll turn to somebody like you for that. So you had a client story about, sometimes companies get into paid retainer relationships. These people do our recruiting for us, this large firm does this for us. And you were invited in after the large firm was not able to find someone for a role, even though they've been looking for a year. You want to share a little bit about that? Because you take the approach of diving deep, putting boots on the ground, completely understanding what's needed, and then getting that fit.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit of background on that story. So I started externally recruiting for this company. They're a large publicly traded company, a global company, and I placed several different auditors there in the audit function. And the VP of tax heard, hey, geez, this guy's really helping me. I really need some help. Can you help me too? So I started working with the VP of tax in the same company and placed think 4 or 5 individuals in her department as well. So one day the head of HR calls me. I didn't know who he was. The phone rang and I saw it was the company's number. I assumed it was one of my hiring managers. And so I picked up and it was the head of HR, and he calls me and he says, "Hey, it looks like you do mostly accounting and finance, but we have this position. It's a senior sales trainer.
Mhm.
We had it out to one of the large retained firms for a year. They've produced nobody. Can you help me?" And so my immediate thought process was very instantaneous, very quick. I want to say yes, but what else is wrong here? Because this is huge, this huge
What don't
return.
I know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I won't name the firm, but
Mhm.
very well household name and retained search, had it for a year. And I'm thinking, well, geez, if they can't do it, why would I be able to do this, But I follow my own motto. I never say no to anything. And I'm very confident in my skill and my experience in recruiting and what I can do and offer. And so I said, absolutely yes. So I scheduled some time with him. I scheduled some time with the hiring manager and the hiring panel that was going to be interviewing for this position to really truly understand what they want. And I
Mhm.
think really at the end of the day, what happened was this retained search firm wasn't asking the right questions and they weren't understanding the right fit, the right skill set on what was needed in order to go and look at the right places for
Yes.
these people. And so I took the search. I didn't even get it retained because they were afraid of paying a retainer, but we came to an agreement on a fee and away I went and I placed that position within 30 days.
Yeah, if you talk to a programmer, you talk to an architect, an engineer, someone who's doing, recruiting, if you start with the wrong premise, you can't solve it. Like if you don't get all the facts you need to design the right solution, the solution you design won't be right. And
Yeah.
so, you don't skip those early steps of let me get to the bottom of what they need. Let me really understand the pain points. So if we deliver on this and this and this person's a fit. Yes. Okay, good. You did that work. And if that other firm had done it in the same way, probably could have produced a result. But,
Yeah,
you get
absolutely.
close to what those problems are so that you have the right solve. Well, and then it was within one of those firms. So you don't limit yourself to what kind of recruitment you're doing. You're finding good human capital in whatever kind of search is needed. You're not limited to this vertical or that vertical, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Like I was sharing with you before, I think the world out there says sometimes you need to find a niche, and that's fine. And a lot of people do it, and they do it well. And I respect it, and I appreciate it. And I started off in that as well. I started off just doing accounting and finance, very narrow, very focused.
Mhm.
But what I found was I would go, especially when I started my career working for a firm, we specialized in accounting and finance. I would fill positions, and then the hiring manager would refer me to somebody in sales, and the sales leader would say, "Hey, Morgan, can you do this for me?" And I would say yes, and then I'd come back and I'd talk to my boss when I worked for somebody else, and they'd be like, "No, we don't do that. Turn it away." And I'm thinking like, "Geez, that's revenue, that's money. Like, that's
It's
we
also another satisfied customer. It's a notch on your belt, right?
Exactly, exactly. And so I learned a lot early on working for somebody else. It was one of the best experiences of my life, a very good firm that I worked with. And then I decided to take it on myself and just say, I think I can do this and do it better. And, it's from there, it's just blossomed. It's the foundation of accounting and finance, but it moves into everything else, like I just shared with you. I started there with audit and tax, and
Mm-hmm.
then the sales job turned up. And
Mm-hmm.
we ended up doing many different jobs in many different verticals. It just happens. And I think when you just keep your ears to the ground and your head down and pencil up and you do the work that's asked and you do it well at a high level, good things will happen. And it's always happened for me. And people will recognize your work. And not everybody's going to work with you. A lot of people have their own relationships, and that's fine. That's respectable. But I'm here to offer different solutions. I'm here to offer different ways of thinking. And that's another thing that we do well at Morgan Human Capital is we offer creative ways and we think outside the box when it comes to different solutions for different customers and clients. For example, I had a customer who I've known for many years, and she called me and says, "Hey, we have probably 50 or 60 different positions that we're going to need help with. Can you do it?" Of course, the answer is yes, but it's also going to be a different solution. It's not going to be your typical just, executive search for these 50 or 60 positions because they're more of individual contributors. So we had to put together a very creative solution that
Mm-hmm.
was financially financially beneficial for them and also financially beneficial for us. That made sense to do the work. We
Wow.
did that. We came to a very quick agreement and we executed, 60 hires over, I think it was about 6 months.
Well, that's fantastic. If you are investing your time, your financial capital in growing a firm, you really need key people in some key situations. You might need a key person, but it's Kansas City and nobody wants to move to Kansas City, or it's Miami and they don't like Miami, or whatever it is. There's so much to the right fit. And as you say, pencils up, let's figure out the fit. So it's wonderful to know you exist. So when people say, I've just got to have this person in this slot with these parameters, who wants to be in this place or wants to travel or wants to only be partially remote or whatever it is that's going on for them. So that's wonderful. Well, and now let's move on to Gofer, your second company that was born from you solving another problem. So within a firm when you were still an internal executive recruiter back in the day, tell us about how Gofer was born.
Yeah, so I'll pare down the story, but it's one of the stories I love telling. And forgive me if I'm bragging here a little bit,
Oh
but I
no,
love
it's okay.
telling.
It's okay. It's not bragging if you did it.
Right? Sometimes I even forget, like, like, oh wow, that's how it happened. But yeah, I was working at this company, a large international company, and I had done a great job recruiting for them, and they offered me a position there to come on and lead their talent acquisition, and it was a real interesting time for the company. Thought it was a really great opportunity, so I said yes, and so I joined. They have a very complex logistical operation, and we are always recruiting for people there, always recruiting for people in their logistical space. But anyway, I was sitting at my desk one day, and the HR business partner for this particular business unit calls me, and she says, "Hey, Morgan, I need your help. We have to staff a position this week. I need somebody quick." And I was like, "Okay, sure, that's fine. Tell me about the position. How can I help you?" So she says, "Well, it's a weird position. We need somebody to be on call, but we don't want to pay them to be on call. But they just need to be on call if a package one of our packages needs to get out to a customer." And I said to her, I said, listen to what you're saying. You want somebody to be on call, but you're not going to pay them, but then you want them to show up and only show up and pay them if and only if something's going down. Like, so it's not going to work. I said, no one's going to do that. That's not how things work. We would have to pay the person. They're like, no, we can't do that. I was like, okay, well, you know, I can't help you. And you have to go back to the business and tell them that that's not doable. I don't even know it's legal. So anyway, we hung up. And as I hung up the phone, I just said to myself, man, it sounds like she needs a taxi cab for her package. And my idea was born. And so it doesn't sound like it's revolutionary right now. Mind you, this was many years ago. This was probably back in
Where Uber Eats and all the rest of
yeah, this is before all that stuff, right? Got as big as it is now. And I just started writing the blueprint for it. And it took me a few years to get it going. I'm not really one that's interested in going out and raising capital and all this other stuff. I bootstrapped my own business,
it.
both of them. And it's as you may well know, it's very expensive to build an app. I don't say that to brag because the money that these companies charge is stupid money to build these apps, but that's what they cost. And in order to play in the game, you have to be able to pay for it. Right? But I did some creative leveraging. I was able to build an app and get this business going and off the ground. And funny enough, now that that company where I worked and had the issue is now our biggest customer, and we're helping them solve their largest or their biggest and most largest complex logistical issues.
It's funny how in life serves you those challenges, they lead to wonderful places.
It does. It does. I think sometimes, and everybody's different.
Mhm.
I know it's not for everybody, and sometimes people just don't recognize that. But I think, I'm the type of person that I love challenges. I get bored very easy if I'm not challenging them. So I love challenges. And when somebody says, "Oh, you can't solve this," that's where I just roll up my sleeves and I say, "Well, we'll see about this."
Don't wave that red flag in front of me.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what was waived. And we're sitting there solving it every single day. We started off in one small city with them, and now we're in 13 cities across the United States, all the way as far east as Charleston, West Virginia, all the way out to Honolulu, Hawaii, and
Wow.
multiple cities in between, with several on the way. And it's a good operation to run. It's and we're helping them again solve their complex logistical issues and helping making people's lives better.
With the trade embargoes or tariffs, with some of the supply chain challenges that we had around, the pandemic, there is a lot of focus on that last mile delivery. If I can get the thing to a warehouse, woohoo, now how do I get it to a customer? It's like, well, yeah, this is us. So they call you. And I'm sure that on a retained basis, this is more affordable, more reliable, particularly if the thing has so much value for what it's going to do in the company. If it's parts that have to be there or whatever it is, then it's really not DHL. It's really not FedExable. So it's wonderful that Gofer exists. And congratulations on 13 lucky cities that you're in so
Yeah.
far.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it's wonderful to be able to kind of pick your brain, but at the bottom, you are solving problems with humans, whether it's on the search side, whether it's on that last mile delivery side. All of those businesses require people, and all of them are providing business solutions, right? You have solved some things. So
Mhm.
you've done this really wonderful synthesis of your skill set as a leader to do that. It's lovely to see. Yeah. Next, are you going to put satellites in space, or, you know, maybe you want to teach people to live on submarines? I'm not sure. The world is changing so fast, and we're going to be presented with new challenges. But maybe you have a tip for entrepreneurs out there that have, wow, okay, if I said yes to this, it would involve me knowing half of what I need to know right now and learning the rest. Not everybody can stomach that level of uncertainty. So you
Yep.
want to kind of talk through how you have the steel, to say, maybe I could tackle that. Let's see. How does that work for you?
Yeah, so I'd say there's a couple tips that I have. So I would be totally lying to you if I told you that taking on I say yes to everything, but behind the scenes, I'm nervous.
Yeah, of course.
I'm nervous because you want to produce, you don't want to look bad, you want to win the business, all those things, right?
Hmm.
But I think there's a point though where if you believe in yourself, number one, you have to have confidence and believe in yourself. And I think that's key with anything, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, confidence is always key. You have to be confident in what you're doing. I think you really have to go out there and you have to listen and listen well. And I will tell you right now, and this is fact of matter, we're in an age right now where listening is a virtue.
Yes.
People can't do it. They cannot do it. I drive my kids every single day to listen with both ears wide open before they run their mouths. And
Yes.
these kids nowadays, and I say kids, anybody younger than me. My oldest son, he's 25, down to my youngest. It's an
Mhm.
influx of information and content just coming to you at all angles every day. And everybody else, then it turned that they just want to share all their stuff, and nobody wants to listen to each other,
Mhm.
right? And I think I'm a huge believer, and I'll step way out and say this, but I think that if we listened to each other more as humans and we had more dialogue, a lot of the world's problems could get solved. I truly believe that. And
Mhm.
I take that down on a micro level every single day
Mhm.
where I go out and I listen.
Mhm.
And, in sales, I was taught a long time ago that the conversation should be like an 80-20, where you listen 80% of the time and talk 20. That's not how it works anymore. I get sold to all day, and I get people calling me up and they're spilling me and saying, what do you think? Can I line you up for a demo? They never even asked one thing about my business. They never asked one thing about me. I've got recruiters trying to call and sell me recruiting services, and they don't even like find out and do the research on who I am,
It's
right?
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
It is amazing. And so I'll give you a real life example. Here's a real life example of success. And I say this not to brag. I say this so that others can take what I'm doing and what I've done and maybe, one small thing away and lead to their.
Apply it. Yes.
But I have been after this customer for my delivery business here in San Antonio for a very long time. For a very long time. It's 3 years. I've chased them. They're a very, very old, very, very large business with a very, very complex logistical operation.
Mhm.
It runs 24 hours a day. It's
Wow.
24 hours a day. And I'm not just talking about, well, they do like three or four in a 24 hour standpoint. I mean, these people like literally by the time my eyes open, by the time my eyes close, and while I'm asleep, it's going the whole entire time, right? It's very complex.
Mhm.
Anyway, they got to a point where they needed us. They called us in. They met with us. Not only did they meet with us and my team, they met with some of the other largest delivery
Mhm.
companies in the United States, all the big names, to include like a UPS, a FedEx, and some of the other ones that are kind of smaller that specialize in this space.
Mhm.
We won the business
Mhm.
and we were ecstatic. And when we met with them and we asked them, hey, what set us apart? Why did you choose us? They used one word. That one word branches into many different words, but they said, it was your flexibility first, Morgan. Flexibility to meet our needs. And you did that by understanding our needs and what was best for us. Every other company that came in our door never listened, never asked questions, and only talked to us and told us what we were going to be doing with our own business. And we
Mhm.
threw them all out. And, there may be different schools of approach on that.
Mhm.
That's my style. And I listen, I learn, we
Mhm.
go in there, we do. We also improve efficiencies and make better, and we advise, but we never go in there and tell people what they're going to do with their own business. And I don't think you should do that in any business. And so, anyway, I think, again, going back to my main point through this and the tips you're asking for,
Mhm.
early on entrepreneurs or others,
Mhm.
go out there and listen to the pain points, ask a lot of questions. I included a lot of to be customers when I first built my Gohfr platform.
Mhm.
And a lot of them, I took their advice. They wanted ease of use. They wanted transparency. They wanted all these things. And we added it all in and we launched this platform. And the customers that we have love it. They love the price transparency. They love the ease of use. They love the technology. They love everything about it. And
Mhm.
it's all due. It wasn't Morgan that created this. I took everybody else's advice and ideas and I packaged it together and put it in one thing and made it live in the world.
That is another part of human capital is the customers. Another component of that business intelligence is what your customers are doing. What do they
Yep.
do with their dollars? What are they buying? What are they turning down? What are they waiting on? For you to be able to get those signals and deliver internally to improve your product and your delivery. This is part of why you're successful, Morgan. And I have to tell you, as an executive coach, it's not uncommon. Someone who's 30, 35, to introduce the idea of a feedback loop.
Mhm.
The part where you listen to what they say and process it and then say what you're going to say. Just an active listening experience is something they learn how to do in executive coaching because they just wait to respond. And then they figure they're in some sort of battle, like on a video game about who's going to win the point. It's like
Yep.
both of you lose when you operate that way. So
Yeah.
it's wonderful, that reminder about active listening and that your customers have intelligence they give you for free. You
Yep.
get free business intelligence to improve what your delivery is, your service offering, how you speak to them, what your pricing model is. Your customers offer you that intelligence if you will just accept it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right. It's people don't want to pay for things. And
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur, if you can go out there and get this intelligence for free, you know, and at the same time, not everybody's going to buy it from you. I had some people that gave me an advice that I took and I packaged it in there and I didn't end up doing business with them. And there's no hard feelings. The opportunity just wasn't right at the time. Maybe
Mhm.
it'll change in the future. But
Mhm.
then there were some others that they really loved the advice and they loved being part of it and
Mhm.
it was right for their business and we've won. And so that's another thing too. You just have to think about is for entrepreneurs, look, we all want to make money. We all need to make money. That's how the world lives. That's how we survive. But
Mhm.
there's also patience. Sometimes patience, you got to have patience.
Well, and that is also in short supply since we get our dopamine hits every 40 seconds as we screen on our phones. But
Yep.
I think having a longer view, having a plan that you're executing, so if you're like, okay, I'm 20% through my plan, calm down. I've got a bigger picture. I'm running a race that I've paid attention to. Well,
Yeah.
it's so delightful for you to be sharing these insights. And I'm excited about both your companies. I've heard a number of people say, recruiters don't really exist anymore. Excuse me. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Yep.
And
You'll find it.
also, you can find a niche like last mile delivery and find customers who need a custom solution the big players cannot offer. They
Right.
don't customize at FedEx. You take it or leave it. So, and if it's a fit for you, take it. And if it's not, you're going to have to find an entrepreneur like you. So we're going to share how to reach you on both those businesses. We're going to share how to find you on LinkedIn. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Morgan? Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast today.
Yeah, no, I've had a wonderful time. You're wonderful, Mirna. I really appreciate you and the opportunity to be on here. No, I don't think there's any last thoughts other than, if you're out there and you're on teeter-tottering and you have an idea,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be brand new.
Mm-hmm.
You can make an idea that's just better than somebody else is doing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is, just go and do it. Do something.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and try it. Too many times, too many of us, and myself included, I've been there where you sit on something for a while and you're like, well, I'll do it in a week. I'll do it in 2 weeks. Well, I'm not sure if they're going to like this. You
Mm-hmm.
just have to put yourself out there, take a step, reach out to somebody who's going to give you some positivity and some positive advice, and be an agent for you and a positive agent, for you, and really give you some confidence and go and try it. And the
Mm-hmm.
worst that can happen is, hey, it doesn't work, and you wait for your next idea.
That's a wonderful American perspective. Let's try. Some of these things are going to fail because everything doesn't always work, but it definitely won't work if you don't try. So try.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so delightful to have you, Morgan. Good luck in both of your businesses. Not that you need it, but I appreciate all your advice. Thank you so much. Okay, you guys, we'll see you next time.